Welcome to another episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. After taking a couple of weeks off at the end of 2020, we are back. I am your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Gayle from Communities Digital News, Daniel from the Inscriber, uh, and my brethren, um, head of media relations for Three Kings Boxing, one of HNICs of Three Kings Boxing. Bo, what's going on, lady and gents?
Good to be back. Good to be with the whole crew tonight.
Yes, sir. I'm so happy to be here today.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Indeed. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show, podcast, and blog discussing all things boxing. The motto of the show is, when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When boxing is bad, we will talk about it. Excuse me, I'm hearing some echo at my end. Let me fix that right quick. Okay, that's done. For those who are new to the show, I'm going to repeat that. For those who are new to the show, Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show and blog and podcast discussing all things boxing. The motto is, when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, it will get talked about. For all information regarding the show, for the time being, the blog page is the place to go to. p4pboxreport.wordpress.com. That's the link. Check the top right of the blog page. You will find links to where to find us all over the podcast realm, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and whatnot. Where you can find us on YouTube and Twitter. Where you can donate. Got a Cash Me a PayPal donation link. Also, last but certainly not least, the link to my online coaching page. I'm an online coach with beachbody.com. With this being a kickstart of 2021, we're almost into February now. If you're interested in get your body right for the new year, getting your fitness up and whatnot, just check out Beachbody On Demand. All programs for all kinds of different goals and whatever you want to do, whether it's weights, whether it's cardio, in between, mixture or whatnot, whether it's the classic P90X series, whether it's the Insanity series, the boxing base program on there, 10 rounds, 6 weeks of the work, which is the real grinder, the thing that I'm currently doing right now. Just check me out. Check out the online coaching page. They're 2-week trials that run concurrent throughout the year. So if you just want to get 2 weeks of free workouts in, just check out my online coaching page on Pound for Pound Box Report blog page. Let's get things going. I'm starting the show with ladies first, as always. I want to kick off things by recapping what took place this past weekend at the Mohegan Sun in Uncasville, Connecticut. Triple header on Showtime. I want to start with the main event, Gayle, as Angelo Leo, who won the WBO junior featherweight title last year, the vacant title that Navarrete gave up to move up to 126 pounds. In his first defense, he fought Stephen Fulton, who was the number one contender, and Fulton defeated him by decision. What made this fight so impressive for me, Gayle, is that Fulton has had a reputation going in as being more of a boxer. In this fight, he's stayed in the pocket and he stayed on the front foot. I like the aggression that he showed. He showed himself not just to be a guy of skill, but to be a guy of toughness and grit too. I love the way he fought on the inside against Leo, who had the reputation of being an inside fighter. For given this is the kickoff of the new year, I was very impressed by him. Arguably his best performance, and to me, he puts himself right in the thickest of the 122-pound landscape. He's a major player, and I think he can make some real moves, Gayle.
He made a big move. He made a big move to start the year off. I hope this is a sign of what's to come. I'm going to be optimistic and take it that way. Fulton impressed me against Leo in the same way that Teofimo Lopez impressed me against Lomachenko, and hear me out on the reason why. Because both guys took away the game of their opponent and beat them at their own game. Everybody thought Lomachenko would just simply outbox Lopez and win easily. No. So Lopez turns the tables, outboxes the boxer. In this case, Fulton decides to bang with the banger on the inside. And it was one of those skilled bang-a-rang contests. It wasn't just a brawl. It wasn't just, flailing around. This was real skill. two, two guys leaning in on each other, right, as you said, on the front foot, right in the pocket, all action, almost 2,000 punches thrown in the fight. And Fulton took nearly 140 body punches from Leo, and it barely showed. Damn, that's impressive. And when you're able to stand in there and take it like that, you're that well trained and that well conditioned. He wasn't even breathing hard. You're able to stay right in there and dish out whatever kind of punishment you want to. And he more or less did. I thought the cards were going to be a little bit closer than they were. Fulton got pretty close to a shutout on almost all three cards, but it was well deserved. Really an impressive step of performance. And add to the whole mix of the story the fact that the first fight scheduled months ago between the pair was called off when Fulton came down with COVID-19. And he has said in interviews that it kicked his ass. He was ill. He admitted to being ill. He also admitted to being very depressed about it, very upset. Well, for him to take it on, tackle it, smash it, turn it around, and deliver that kind of performance, that says a lot about him as a fighter, even beyond the performance. So yeah, he wants to take on all the title holders at 122, and I think he's well equipped to do it. I can't wait. Let's get a tournament running, and let's run in some of the guys that are on the fringe, the Danny Romans who want back in. That'd be a great time, but a great way to sort of officially start the boxing year in the United States.
Absolutely. I'll go around to the rest of the panel here, starting with Bo. Gayle gave her summary and talked about how impressed she was by Fulton's performance. Quick summary from you, Bo. And where do you see Fulton in the junior featherweight or super bantamweight, depending on your perspective, landscape? You got MJ Akhmadaliev, who has the two of the belts, WBA, IBF version. You also got Luis Nery, who won the WBC title last year. You also got the aforementioned Daniel Rahman, who MJ beat last year to win those unified titles. Assess Fulton based on this performance from Fulton a couple of days ago. Assess where would you place him in that mix at 122 pounds? Starting with you, Bo.
Well, you gotta. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing. It just verifies something that I think we always knew, and it just adds to the fact that this is another reason why Ray Vargas was like, "I'm out." That's why Ray Vargas was like, "Oh no, I'm out. I'm out this division. This division getting too hot right now." You have to put him in there, and you also have to. You got to look at guys like Brandon Figueroa, who can be a player in there. Rye Celine, who we saw dominated the guy that he fought in Vic Pasillas, and I think that was a WBA interim title. So that was an up and coming rising dude who was actually there watching it. So it's becoming a very good, stacked, high quality division. And when you look at the MJ and you look at Luis Nery, and then you look at the performance of Stephen Fulton. Now, mind you, this is Stephen Fulton that hadn't fought in a year, and it didn't look like he was affected drastically by that. But what he did was he turned Angela Leo's biggest strength into also his biggest weakness, which is what we is one of the phrases that they say in boxing. Sometimes your biggest strength can be your biggest weakness, and that's what he did. He showed that, okay, you like to fight on the outside, and one thing that he said was, I noticed that I got caught by Leo when I was trying to box on the outside. I got caught once or twice, and that's when I decided, okay, I got to go inside, change it up and go inside, because he's prepared to fight me if I'm boxing. He wasn't prepared to fight him on the inside. And then I got to give it to him. If you're able to take away what another guy does well and you can beat him at that game, you got to look at him as a serious contender. And the more experience he gets and the more fights he gets and the more active he stays, then the sharper he'll get. So when you're looking at the fights with Luis Nery, when you're looking at the fights with MJ, even Daniel Rahman, those are very interesting fights. Now, the only thing that might hurt him is he doesn't have that devastating, knockout power. But I think the fact that he fights in volumes and he's a very sharp puncher. Sometimes you don't have to have that punching power to knock you out, but just enough punching power to make you want to stay up off him. So he starts developing that ability to be that sharp punching where he's where he's landing that perfectly timed punch that just hurts you just enough. Yeah, he's definitely a major player at a division that is just right now. When you look at the champions and maybe I want to say the second tier fighters, like the Carlos Castros and the Brandon Figueroas, Ronnie Rios and all of those guys. Yeah, you got to put him in the mix with all of those champions, and even so, 122 right now is turned into one of my favorite divisions. And I like the fact, and Fulton pointed out that he's the only one talking about being undisputed. Although MJ has also said that he want to fight for more belts, but it's good to see that Stephen Fulton isn't looking to just sit on just sit on the WBO title alone. No, he wants to be the man of the division, and that's always good to hear any fighter say that.
I'll go to you, Daniel. Your quick summary of the fight and kind of a comparative analysis of Fulton at 122 pounds.
It's one of the best things that you can watch when you can take away one guy's forte per se. And that's what Fulton did. He took Leo's forte of fighting in the inside, being the banger, being the brawler, and took it out of him. And it also tells you a little bit of Leo's camp as far as they were not prepared for it. They were just like, okay, he's just going to try to outbox you because he thinks he can't outbang you. And he proved them wrong. And he proved them wrong so much that they even knew it in the corner. He started talking the last round. The guy said, you have to knock him out to win. You have no other choice. They didn't even try to line him. You have to knock him out. So the scorecards weren't a surprise to me. 122 was always now becoming the interesting one between the low, sometimes at bantamweight, and the low featherweight. 122 is always a good division now. Brandon Figueroa is going to be an interesting option. Ronnie Rios is always a good option. But Danny Roman, to me, is probably the most interesting one because he's been dying to really, really get back in. And Nery is going to be an interesting one, but though I would probably say I would stay away from Nery at least for the time being because the dude can punch. So I love this division now. I love it. Like it's one of the little divisions that now can pick up steam with bantamweight still being someone low now, featherweight still being a little bit low now. I'm loving this division. This and 115, the little guys are stepping up.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's stay at 122 pounds. And I'm going right back to you, Bo. You mentioned him during your breakdown of Fulton's win over Leo. On the undercard of this bout, you had Rye Celine, who won an interim belt at 122 pounds, defeated by stopped the guy by the name of Pasillas in the 11th round. In the lead up to this, I've seen the lean fight. I was like, he's okay, but it was nothing eye-popping from him in previous videos of watching him online and watching his previous fights. I have to say, I was a little bit more impressed with this. I was more impressed with this one, not just a little bit, but more. He was sharp from jump. Once I got home and was able to see the bout in full. Talk about the win in Pasillas and much like Fulton, where do you see him fitting in as what's become a suddenly exciting junior featherweight division?
Yeah, first I want to talk about the box rec era that they.
We was in the y'all was in the Three Kings private chat talking about that. Speak on it.
Yeah, right after the fight, he won. BoxRec had both guys with an L by their name. I mean, they fixed it now, but right after the fight, they had Celine, Aline with the loss, and his opponent he knocked out with the loss. So it was kind of crazy, but the funny thing about that was, and I think and I hope this is the lesson that the young man learned. Sometimes, for whatever reason, fighters have to have something to make them get up. Because you're right, I wasn't expecting the guy that I saw Saturday night either, Mike. I really wasn't. But I think that he realized what was at stake. He realized all eyes gonna be on him, and that interim title puts him right in line for a belt. Now he stuck around to watch Fulton. I don't think you the interim title. You're not gonna get Fulton. You're not even ranked by the WBO. I know it's a fight you want. Fulton would have to just voluntarily fight him, but that puts him right there with MJ, right? So from what I saw a young man that took that turn, that finally took that turn that you want to see every fighter takes when he's given that step up fight. It's just like Angelo Dundee said about Muhammad Ali when he got hit with that left hook and he went down, but he got back up, and he said that's when I realized Ali took the turn because he got back up from a punch that probably should have knocked him out. And it's all fighters. Floyd Mayweather, when he had to fight, I think it was Emmanuel Augustus. Floyd had to take that turn. So there's always a fight that a fighter has to have where they take that turn, and that was the difference in what you saw. You saw one fighter that took the turn in Aleem, and another fighter in Vic Pastillas who didn't know how to take that turn. So it was just a combination of everything. I like what I saw in him. Do I think he's ready for any of the champions? Not quite yet. Not quite yet. Right? I would like to see him against a former world champion, a quality former world champion first. Because when you start moving up to that level, you kind of want to be careful, especially when you're talking about MJ, and even and even Daniel Roman and Louis Neary. I know he wants to fight Stephen Fulton because he's just not getting there, but I still like to see him fight a former world champion. But the performance he gave makes the division even more exciting because you want to see him fight. Like that was the performance where you say, I want to see this guy fight again. And that's what you want to do in a division that is stacked like this. Because all of these guys that are fighting, as far as the champions are concerned, I want to see all of them fight again. I want to know what's up with Louis Neary. I definitely want to see MJ and Stephen Fulton. So I want to see these guys fight again. So that's the statement he had to make. And make no mistake about it, man. 122 is going to be probably one of the most, in my opinion, we're going to be talking about 122 a lot in 2021, and I really hope that comes into fruition.
At the very least, it was the kind of performance that if you have never seen a lean fight, uh, it would make you want to see him again. It would perk your interest in wanting to see him again. And just like Fulton, it opened the doors for him to be uh, a player in the division and opened him up for bigger, more significant fights. Quickly, Gayle and Daniel, any quick word on this before we move on?
Nothing to add. Nothing to add.
Yeah, I actually missed the other two fights. I got home right in time for the Leo Fulton fight, so I have that unfortunately.
You
Okay.
saw the class of the night.
Since you missed that, I was going to go to you to talk about this third fight, but I'll take it back to Gayle. Um, the third fight, let's just put it out there. Rolly Romero, uh, in a short span, he's become one of the lightning rods of the sport. Uh, as much for his mouth as it is for his ability in the ring. Um, Fellow fighters in the lightweight division, he's their favorite fighter, but not in a good way. He's their favorite fighter because they love to troll him the most. Uh, Romero, let's just say he has a penchant. He has a high opinion of himself. Let's just say. Um, he's talked about he could take out Tank Davis. He's talking about what he was going to do this and that in the division. He fought on this card as well, defeating a guy by the name of defeating Avery Sparrow, who's that's just a journeyman at best. Stopped him in seventh round. Romero in this fight, Gayle, he looked better than he did in his last fight, which a lot of people felt he lost. After what he's talked about again, how he's can compete and he can do whatever the 135, and as I said and shared this about the recap on threekingsboxing.com, while it's better than his last bout, doesn't mean that he can all of a sudden he's up there with the elite at 135 pounds. Nah, Your reaction to what you saw?
Yeah, I must admit, there's a lot of young guys who talk big among themselves, and sometimes it's questionable whether they can back it up. I'm not sure why, in particular, Raleigh rubs so many people the wrong way. It's just become a thing. It's a thing like Bernie memes are a thing. It's just a thing. And it doesn't help him that he got a last minute replacement opponent because his original opponent came in 5 pounds over the weight limit. 5. That's 5. Count on your one hand. 5 pounds. So Sparrow was a backup. He's been a backup before. He came in just slightly over, good enough, close enough for the day. And Avery Sparrow's claim to infamy is that he was scheduled a summer ago to fight Ryan Garcia out at StubHub, aka Dignity Health Sports Park, except that he got arrested in front of the Target down the street the day before. So when a Los Angeles helicopter landed and grabbed him, sheriff's helicopter, it was absolutely crazy, ridiculous. So that's what actually started off the little brush fire of arguments between Ryan Garcia and Oscar De La Hoya, because they tried to pull Romero Duno from the undercard to fight Ryan, and Ryan wanted more money, and then he was accused of ducking him, and on we went down the road. So here's Avery Sparrow again, who's an infamous figure to me, and he just had nothing to offer. He is journeyman is very polite, truly. So Romero should have absolutely dusted him. And yeah, he got him out of there in 7 rounds, but he preserved his path forward, but he didn't distinguish himself. Yes, he won. Yes, he got a stoppage. That's exactly what he should have done. Nobody should be getting too excited about him doing what he was expected to do. He did what was expected of him and no more, and that's where we are. So he gets another chance. I'm not going to go out there and troll him. There are way more fun people to troll than that for far greater satisfaction. Everybody else can continue to have at him, and I'm not really sure why he's getting picked on over any of the other trash talking young guys out there, but that's what it is.
Well, the reason why is you fight 6-8 rounders, all the while talking more shit in a little bit about how you the man, and then the first time you get a halfway,
but a lot of you guys.
The thing is, the last time you get a halfway decent test, you look like trash. But yet he talking like he did great, and then when he gets criticized, he basically tells the fans to fuck themselves. All the while, every other lightweight in the world is like, "You ain't shit, yo. You fight like you ain't shit." And yet he keeps talking. Okay.
I guess I put him in the category of that's what a lot of these young guys do. I mean,
he's just one of those guys who has that person who has those kind of personalities. Other fighters talk the same way, and other fighters talk the same way, and they don't, and people just dismiss him. It's just something about what he says and how he says it that may be a little bit more annoying or more eye catching than most.
Right.
And given the fact that there's a lot of attention being paid attention to in that weight range right now, a lot more eyes are on him, or a lot more ears are tuned into what he's saying, and all you have to do is just watch the video. It's like, okay, yo, you may say one thing, but your actions spell something different. You ain't it, dog. You ain't it. So nice win. I go to you, Bo. I'll go to you, Bo, since Daniel wasn't able to see the fight. Quick word on this.
Where do I start, man? I think I really think you guys are missing it. I really do. I think you guys are not recognizing the greatness that you're seeing before you that's being nurtured by Floyd Mayweather. Floyd.
Oh, I was going to say something else. But go ahead. What?
I'm just keeping my mic off. I'm staying out of this.
Mike, Mike,
No,
Mike, you okay?
I'm all right. What?
No, man, I'm just messing around. Here's the thing I think with Rolly Romero is that um, Rolly Romero is an easy target because all of the guys that he's targeting in the fight, especially two of those guys being Devin Haney and Tank Davis, well, they all, outside of being accomplished, outside of being levels above him, they all come from out of what? That Mayweather gym. And when you
Yeah.
come from that gym, there is a certain, I want to say, talk that these guys are going to have. And when you look at Devin Haney and you look at Tank Davis, and they have that talk, but they have the skill set to back it up. And now you look at Rolly Romero, and it's like something's missing. Now I said this on the Three Kings Instagram page. I said everybody's hyping about his win, but it was Avery Sparrow. I think that wasn't that guy a basketball player named Avery Sparrow? you know. Now, if he'd have did this to the guy that everybody felt he lost to, in Jackson, I think Marinez, now that's something special. If the performance he did against Sparrow, he did that against the guy that everybody thought he lost, now you didn't did something. But you can't beat a replacement fighter whose claim to fame is beating Hank Lundley, right? Outside of what Gayle said, his other claim to fame is beating Hank Lundley. Well, you can't, want us to praise a guy that was a 24-hour replacement. The guy was, and then let's keep it real. You didn't stop the fight because you beat him up. He had a fucking injury. That's all. He had an injury. He had a freak injury, and he couldn't continue no more. And that's really what we saw. Like, if you really want to impress me, you should have blasted him out of there when you got him out in the first round. Then I've been like, all right, well, at least you got this guy in the first round. It was a better performance, but it was a performance like what Gayle said against a guy who was a 24-hour replacement coming in, a journeyman, not necessarily a dude that was going to test you. He needed to have rematch Jackson Marinez. That's who he needed to have rematch. That's who he should have had rematch, and he didn't. So for me, until you rematch that guy, I too much don't want to hear nothing from you. I really, really don't, because you got to prove to me you can beat that guy or someone like that guy. I prefer that guy, though. You got to prove to me you can beat that guy. So, and I think that's why he's getting picked on, because, you can't talk all the trash that he talked and go after all these guys and say that you're ready for the elites and the tops, and then you lay an egg against, a Jackson Marinez. And not to say that Marinez is trash, but he's an up-and-coming dude like yourself. And he got clearly outboxed and beaten there. And then, of course, it doesn't help that Devin Haney released a sparring footage of Devin Haney pretty much beating him up. Of course, we know how those are, how those goes. Even Claressa Shields was like, yo, who's that dude you hitting on? Like, they like, man, you killing this guy. So, and that's what he's suffering right now, man, is that. And I understand that frustration. That's why he had to have that performance. But, you got to understand, man, boxing is a sport. It'll humble you. And when you go out, when you talk a lot of trash and you go out there and lay an egg, you're going to get humbled. So, like I said, man, yeah, he looked it better, and that's fine. Yes, you look better, but for me personally, until he rematches Jackson Marinez, he probably ain't gonna ever get no credit from me. I got to see you fight that dude again, man. I got to see you beat that guy.
I think we can all agree on that particular point. If you ask 10 boxing fans about Raleigh and his, not this fight with Sparrow, but his previous fight with Marinez, 9 of them will probably say that Marinez won the bout. Excuse me, and he got the win technically, but he has to avenge that kind of performance to get the respect from the real fans. Because if he don't, he's going to continue to be criticized. He's going to continue to be trolled, no matter how he likes it or not. That's going to be fresh on the minds of the folks. So first and foremost, following this win, do you and your people, your handlers, try to get that fight, get a rematch with him, and clarify that how you looked in that first fight, then you will finally start getting some respect. Let's move on here and talk about some news. Want to focus on one main story that everybody can talk about, and then I'm going to split these other stories up because we're a little bit cut short on time because Gail, she has to dip on us a little bit early. Want to get as much as we can before she has to leave. Uh, First story, I want everybody's opinion on this. Over the weekend, uh, a lot of talk about Ryan Garcia. First and foremost, how his Twitter account, someone reported him, and now his Twitter account is down for some reason for daring to uh, praise God, talk about how thankful he is for God, how much God is, how God has played a role in his life. I do not understand that. That don't make sense. Twitter, you got racists and white supremacists, all kind of problematic people. All over your platform. Hell, look how long it finally took y'all to finally get rid of 45, discontinue his account, and you, if you all of a sudden want to try to end Ryan Garcia's account because he actually dared to praise the Lord and speak of how the Lord has had an impact on his life, do better, Twitter. But more importantly than that, he a lot of news has surrounded him regarding the prospect of him and Manny Pacquiao. Garcia on IG talking about how is a basically is he's signed to fight Pacquiao in some capacity. Daniel, I'll go to you first. What?
Oh, there's the layers to this, the layers to this. We're gonna be peeling back the onion a little bit. But first, like when we first saw it, I thought because I saw it from Carpenter first, and I thought he was just trolling. I thought this was just gonna be Carpenter's pulling the early April Fools. But then you started seeing other people pick it up and actually taking it seriously. And over the weekend, Ryan did the thing where he put the picture on the Instagram saying it's reality. And here we go today. It's coming out for more or less an exhibition. And I know people are gonna get ready to clown. Bo's already sharpening his knife. I can tell that sharpening his knife, ready to clown Ryan Garcia on this. I'm not looking at it from the Ryan Garcia standpoint as far as the King Rice talking all this bullshit that he's doing it, then he's going to get an exhibition with Pacquiao. But you have to think about it this way. In a way, there's two things you can take away from it. One, Manny sees enough in Ryan Garcia where even as an exhibition, you can think you can make some money from it. That number one, that tells you of the marketability of Ryan Garcia that somebody like Manny would even entertain this. Even like to me, the person that said that he's going to take softballs on the way out and be trying to become a politician and fully a politician and being president of the Philippines. But the other major thing I'm taking away from this is the fact that this means, even if it's just for something an exhibition, even if it's for something that's not really, like I said, consequential per se in a way, but it means that Oscar and Al, two people that you would have considered before the Indian Pakistan of boxing, are talking. And that means some forbidden doors may be starting to open for other potentials, including the door for one Virgil Ortiz, who, if this works out and they see that they make money from this, he doesn't have to face that PBC fireball at welterweight, limiting him his chance for a championship, which could actually happen at the end of this year. So I look at it from that standpoint. They're talking, and Manning is seeing something in Ryan Garcia where he can say, I can make money with him.
Your reaction to this, Gail? You can have two like minds, the business side from Pacquiao, business side from Garcia. For me, and I'm leaving. I'm going to leave the. I'm gonna let Bo talk last about this because I want him to have the floor. For me, my thing is simply this: you can't. It seems like this is a big cash out opportunity for both guys. For Garcia, you can't talk all this stuff about Tank this, about Haney this, and how you would do all this and that. You got all these fights at 135 pounds where you can make money, where you could actually prove that you're the best. For this side little deal with Pacquiao, I get it from a short term perspective, but me, this is short money, and no matter how much quote unquote cash he could make, to me it's a little cheap. It's a little cheap,
Hey,
particularly at this stage of his career, where he still has a lot more to prove.
let us remind ourselves what is going on in the universe right now. It is called the coronavirus pandemic. And we are still at the point in January 2021 and February and probably March and probably May, the pandemic gets a say. You don't want to have a fight like a showdown between Tank and Ryan, or really even a showdown between Haney and Ryan, or any of those guys, without an audience. So you've got to buy some time. They can talk about going after each other all they want. You need an audience. Boxing is bleeding red ink right now. And why wouldn't they do a little fundraising with an exhibition like this? Everybody rides, everyone makes money. They looked over at the ridiculous Tyson Jones Jr. event and thought, damn, that thing had 2 million plus buys, depending on whose figures you look at. If they even got a fraction of that for a low stakes, fooling around, everybody's in on it exhibition with their followings, you've got all of Manny's followers, all of the Asian boxing market who will watch anything he does, and Ryan's growing market. You get a lot of eyeballs on it. It's all in good fun. It's great cross promotion for both of them. Yeah, it's a toe in the water to test how everybody works together. Let's see how that all works. It's a trial run on the promotional side too, with low stakes involved. That's a very smart thing to do before you're all in on a cross promotion between those two organizations. And it really falls in the why wouldn't they? The other thing it does for Garcia, his value to the other players is his following. He is marketable. The smart folks working with his opponents, Calvin Ford has openly said he'd like to see a Garcia fight because there's more money in it. There's more people involved, but it can't happen until they can do a gate. So they just got to tap dance a little bit longer. Hopefully it's only a little bit longer for all of us. And it's going to be an exhibition. Word is that it's going to be done in Los Angeles, somewhere local, easy for Manny to access. Remember, he's got to get into the country. That's no small thing with travel restrictions. So we'll see how that all works. Rumor is that it's going to be at a facility called The One on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. Perfect. It'll be a made-for-TV thing, low production costs, low overhead. That's all it's going to be. But you know what? You could say anything you want about it. You could trash it. You could laugh at it. We're talking about it. We're going to be talking about it for another few minutes. It will end up have taken up 15, 20 minutes of this show and many other podcasts and many columns. So who are the smart ones? The folks making us talk about it.
Like I said, I purposely gonna let you talk about speak on this last book because I know you was chomping at the bit to touch this topic. So the floor is yours, sir.
The one thing I love about this show is the different ideas, ideologies, and opinions of everybody here, who I firmly respect. And let me just say that I'm so glad that Gayle and Daniel got to go first because they're the calm people. But I got to get black up in here, and by black I mean another, and by black I mean another word that I'm not going to say on myself. All right,
The word that I almost slipped up and said was
said earlier, yeah. I got to get black up in here, okay? Because this is it's a cultural difference, and there's nothing wrong with that cultural difference. You can't. First of all, let's make something clear, and I get what Gayle is saying. You want to have a gate. You can do the fight in Texas where they can let people in, but there's a difference between 10,000 and 50,000. I get that. And I will not sit up and say that you're wrong for that. Okay? I get that. I even get where Daniel's coming from. At the end of the day, though, ladies and gentlemen, you have to look at something. This is my problem. I don't mind what Ryan Garcia did. I understand it. My problem is when a one Mikey Garcia did it, instead of fighting Lomachenko and Linares, whom he gave the impression he was going to fight. It was on this show. When we heard he was going to fight Earl, I said, I'm upset because I wanted to see Mikey fight Jorge Linares, especially after the trash he talked and Lomachenko. And he went to 147, and the fans were not so forgiving to Mikey for saying it. On one, Earl Spence said, if Crawford don't accept the 60-40, I might go fight Canelo. Something that fans was not so forgiving. And my problem is, this is Ryan Garcia, who has been hounding Tank Davis since 2019. He has been on him. He went at Tank about his domestic issue. You got personal. You went at the man's domestic issues. That's how personal you got. You made a video of him having a fat belly. Like, it got to the point it was an obsession. If you ask Ryan Garcia, Ryan, how's the weather? Nice, man. And I want to fight Tank Davis. Like, that's how I was like, damn. Like, Ryan, how you feel this morning? I feel good, but I want to fight Tank Davis. That's what we had all of 2020. That's what we had. Then he got on a Mike Tyson show. I'm going to knock this dude out in 2 rounds. Then when Tank called in, he's like, come on, announce it. Say it right here. Now you can't back out of the fight. Don't you pull out. Don't you back out. Don't you back out. To only say, my bad, dog. What had happened was, no, Negro, no. Bullshit. And I get it. It is it's an opportunity. You're going to make some money. Now, also, let's remember this. Ryan Garcia has made it very clear that he's not trying to be in boxing a long time. He's trying to get out by the time he's 26 years old. Also, I think the same age Ryan Garcia is, Oscar De La Hoya pimped Canelo Alvarez at the same age. He pimped Canelo Alvarez out to Floyd Mayweather. Okay? And I think Oscar is looking at this as to distract Ryan from Tank Davis because maybe he don't think he's ready for that just after what he saw in the Luke Campbell fight. And it could very well be that. But for Ryan Garcia to talk the trash that he talked, to say the things that he say, then to look at Pacquiao in an exhibition, which, what's the point? Like, that's something y'all could do at any given time. What is the point of that? Now, to Daniel's point, yeah, he does look at Ryan and said there's something there because the Mexican fans. And that's what Ryan Garcia is going to bring, especially being over there, Golden Boy, right? They're looking at, how Ryan Garcia, and I think we pointed this out before, how there's a difference how Golden Boys treat the Hispanics that look like Ryan and then the ones that look like Francisco Vargas. There's a total difference how they treat them. You put him in all these killer fights and you'll baby the shit out of Ryan Garcia. So for me, I understand this fight. Don't get it wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I really do. But for him to hound Tank like he did and tell Tank don't pull out, to be on social media calling Tank out at every time and tell him, hey, man, you bet not back down. Don't you know what I'm saying? Don't you be up. You bet not back down, only for him to pull out and then offer some, hey, man, look, I'm not fighting, Tank because I got a much better offer. Like, that's it? No, look, man, I know I was clowning this dude, all this, but, man, look, You just were like, hey man, look, man, I ain't fighting Tank. I got this. No, I'm sorry, dog. You can't be doing that. And then an exhibition where all the only thing I can think of you get out of it is what, money. So are y'all looking to really beat each other? Are y'all look? It's like, and I get it. It's a dog and pony show. You got to push it along. And also, let's keep this in mind too. This actually, in my honest opinion, helps Manny just as much as Ryan, because Manny has to make a decision between Earl Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford. And that can't be freaking easy for him to make. That's why he was talking about some damn Conor McGregor. That can't be an easy decision for him to make. So, man, at the end of the day, it just left a bad taste in my mouth only because of when Mikey Garcia and Earl Spence was talking about, well, Mikey Garcia actually did it. And when Earl mentioned it, fans was all over them. And there seemed to be a level of forgiveness for Ryan because it's Pacquiao. And that's the only thing that's the only thing that really is a crow up my ass about it. I understand this fight. I totally really do. But if Ryan Garcia goes to 147 for this exhibition, I don't know if it has to be at a catchweight, because I don't know if he gets back down to 135 for all those good, delicious fights that we want to see him fight. Because first it was, I want to fight Luke Campbell because I want to fight the best, looking at Devin Haney. Then soon as he beat Luke Campbell, it's Tank Davis. He even told Eddie Hearn, man, go cry me a river. Yeah, I'm the man, but go cry me a freaking river. Now it's Manny Pacquiao. I understand why. I definitely understand why. But no, Ryan, you just don't get to just be like, hey, y'all know what I said, but I'm going to, no, Negro, you got to tell me more. I'm sorry. I need more than that, man. I just need more.
I'm coming for you, Tank. Your mind, Tank. We're gonna see each other, Tank. Your next, Tank. But he gonna pull a Nate Dogg and say, "Hold up, wait a minute. I got this thing over here I want to deal with first." Traditional old school mindset, you got a problem with it. New age, millennial, Gen Y, Gen Z, they could take it. They'll understand it. One, because Garcia is so popular, and two, because it's against Pacquiao. It depends on what angle you're looking at this. Me, I'm more in line with Bo. I can understand what you're saying, Gayle and Daniel, but maybe because of my age, maybe because of when I watched boxing and how long I've watched boxing. Um, Again, as I said earlier, this to me just seems like cheap. No matter how much money you're gonna make, you got all these juicy fights at 135. You're right there in the mix. And given the popularity that you have, you're going to get over from a monetary perspective regardless. Fans, real hardcore observers of the sport, not the folks who follow you on Instagram, sir. Not the folks who follow you on Snap or on TikTok or whatever. Real fans, they want to see you against Tank. They want to see you against Haney, right? They want to see you eventually against Lopez, be it at 35 or 40. That's what they want to see. Uh, this, I get it on one hand, but on the other hand, it's like, come on, just come on. I'm not,
Hey, Mike,
I get annoyed by it.
let me say as far as what Twitter did to him. Yeah, I didn't know why, because I couldn't find them on Twitter. But yeah, if they did it, because that's hella bogus, man. It really is.
I'm going to quote one of my favorite movie lines from the immortal Sergeant Hulka of Stripes. Lighten up, Francis.
Ah,
Oh, Gayle.
Come
Oh,
on. Come
Gayle.
on.
Gayle.
The kids want to have a good time, and you guys want to yell, get off my lawn. Please.
Yes, I want to yell, get off my lawn, because you been at my lawn calling out my son all goddamn day. That's why get off my lawn.
Come on. You know what? Again, let us point out again. The money's there when the pandemic ends. And yes, I get it. Real boxing fans want to see real boxing. The sad part is there aren't enough of them. There aren't enough of them to carry the sport forward. We are going to have guys thinking like Garcia, like, forgive me for saying this, Logan and Jake Paul, who bring
Hell
in,
no.
I get it, but they bring in a new generation who just might, through exposure on the sides, see a real fight and say, damn, I enjoyed that. And so they come for Garcia and Pacquiao, and they stay for quality. They stay for Virgil Ortiz. They stay for Errol Spence. That we got to have some of these loss leaders out there and some of these exhibitions right now to make this happen. I'm not opposed to it. I
Hey
get
Gail,
it.
hey Gail, the last quality fight when Devin Haney was on that undercard, they booed him.
That's right. They did. So they need Garcia out there as a salesman, and they should not be throwing shade at him for doing it because they all are going to benefit from it. Let him get out there and do it. And if you can't say anything nice about it, just shut the hell up. The fights will come. They've just got to buy some time. And from Ryan's perspective and his team, let's say he does this and it's a hell of a big draw and everybody chatters about it and they make some money. Ryan just executed an ideal marketing proof of concept to then turn around and demand the money he thinks he deserves from a income and business perspective to take these fights. So he's going to ensure he gets a good payday out of it too. We should all have the marketing instincts of Ryan Garcia at age 22.
You're right,
Yep.
Gail. When I was 22, I wish I was a punk too.
No!
You just have to remember. You just have to remember on this. He may call himself King Raj, but remember, on the larger chessboard, he's probably a pawn or bishop at best right now.
Yeah. Well,
That's
so
a
and if that's true, he needs to cash out while he can.
Yeah, and not to mention that I can't believe I'm actually going to say this because I am a bit of a history buff, but this could be a boxing equivalent considering what we're seeing, the divisions they are right now. I can't believe I'm going to give this guy credit. A Nixon opens up China moment between Golden Boy and the PBC, because that's one of the goals. You need to break up this freaking Cold War that we have, where automatically thinking, oh, it's Golden Boy or it's PBC, they'll never face each other because they're insane. We have to break this up. If this leads the way, then that should be well and dandy the best thing to do. And quite frankly, like I said it, Manny's not going to take himself out into real dangerous territory, making himself a dangerous fight. Because as much as I know Bo's talked about Errol Spence and Bud Crawford, I'm sorry, bro. I don't think Manny will ever step in the ring with those two. I honestly believe his people are going to make sure he's going to take the easiest way out. They have too much to risk in him being hurt going into a presidential election.
And I think we could talk about this all day. And what you just heard is a respectful game of competitive banter where you have different opinions without people being upset at each other, right? It's one of the things why I came up with the show, why I created the show, and why I have the people who are on here now. You can have folks who can respectfully uh, uh, disagree without being disagreeable. We all have our opinions on this. They're all respected and they're all valued and they're all in a space where they can be heard um, in a way in which people can digest it and just take it for what it is. And again, this is kind of a golden moment here for me, and it's one of the reasons why I created this show. Uh, Now that we got that out the way, I'm going to split these next news topics up. Right, going to go back to you, Bo. I think I'm hearing some echo here. Could you mute your mic, please, Gail? Um, we've on Three Kings Boxing, we've talked a lot about Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. During the time off here on Pound for Pound Boxing, I've always mentioned that I'm a writer on Three Kings Boxing. A lot of comments there. I've written articles about it. You have too. Um, the action has picked up on the negotiation side. Um, give an update as what has transpired between the two camps over the past couple of weeks, because it looks like we're on the verge, Bo. We're on the verge of a signing here.
Yeah, actually, when you think about it, this could be great for the United Kingdom. They could wind up having two. Well, yeah, they could wind up having two undisputed champions. They could have between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, and if Josh Taylor be Jose Ramirez, he'll be undisputed. So they'll wind up having two undisputed champions over there in the UK. The thing about this, and it's funny because it's a fight that needs to happen. I get it. I listen. I get it. Deontay, somewhat got screwed. COVID-19 kind of messed him over with his trilogy fight, his rematch. Then, of course, the networks, they had a date. The network said, no, that's not good. It can happen in 2021. And Tyson Fury is like, well, listen, man, I'm not going to wait around. And you got people complaining, well, Fury purposely let the time run out, Blase, Skippy, and all that. And again, man, listen, I get it. Right, you even got the WBO over there with Usyk. Like, man, they try to maneuver him to fight Joe Joyce for an interim. Now, if I'm Usyk, I'm not taking that, because why would I take? The only thing I can think of is he must no longer have his mandatory, because there's no way I'm gonna take a fight with Joe Joyce for an interim title when I'm already a mandatory for the freaking title, right? So it must be a lot of money they dropped on the table for him for that. Then also they're saying, based on what happens in arbitration, they may have to give Deontay Wilder some money. And if he winds up getting 10, 15 million, because, they're trying to take the fight to Saudi Arabia, a place like that, where it can be an 80, even $100 million fight, as Bob Arum says. But it's a fight that has to happen. At the end of the day, it's a fight that has to happen. And unfortunately, all the participants just gotta fucking wait. And I know that's not, if you're a Deontay Wilder fan, you don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. Deontay Wilder, the way he got beat, he needs to go back to the drawing board and come back better. That's why the him about to fight Charles Martin is intriguing to me. Okay, after what we saw, would you really have wanted to see a trilogy fight? After what you saw in that second fight, would you really have wanted to see a trilogy fight? So, and the same thing with Anthony Joshua. He took an early loss against Andy Ruiz. It was still a dangerous fight against Kubrat Pulev. And Usyk, although he might be favored, is still a dangerous fight. So when do we say, okay, man, enough, let's do undisputed? Because if you keep taking dangerous fights, somebody's going to wind up taking the L. That's actually how Wilder wound up on the outside and not in. Okay? So, yeah, man, I want this to happen. They're getting very close. I think they still got to work out, just a few more, a few more little small things. The biggest thing is going to be where to have the fight at, because ideally you would want it in the UK, Wembley Stadium, 100,000 people. But right now the United Kingdom's on shutdown right now, and that's also playing a part in everything, because the United Kingdom is on shutdown. So, and now they're possibly trying to do Saudi Arabia or something like that. But I can't wait for this. I really can't wait for the fight to happen. And again, you look at Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez, they're going to crown another undisputed champion. So we could wind up having two United Kingdom undisputed champions in two different weight divisions at the same time. Or at the very least, we'll have undisputed champions in two weight divisions at the same time in boxing. And that's always a good thing, because it just makes it that much more competitive, because everybody else in the rankings are going to have to fight to get at the champion. It reminds me of the old days when the guy was undisputed. When you look at guys like Marvelous Marvin Hagler, who did beat Sugar Ray Leonard, by the way, they cheated him out that fight.
Here we go.
All right, but you had Marvin Hagler, and you had Mustafa Hamsho, who could never get the title because he had to go through Hagler, and that's just kind of how the sport was. Ernie Schaefer always had to fight, whoever the top champion was, the undisputed champion at that time. When Bernard Hopkins was ruling over the middleweight division, all the contenders had to come and go through him. it just adds, it just makes it much better when you have when you have a top guy that everybody got to go and see. So hopefully this fight happens. I'm thinking, I don't think the fight's gonna happen until like maybe May sometime.
Absolutely. I go to you, Gail. A few episodes back, we talked about uh, Juan Francisco Estrada and Roman Gonzalez going to fight a rematch this year. The fight was announced on March the 13th, right? The undercard was of that bout was announced last week, and on the undercard, uh, going to have a women's matchup between uh, Jessica McCaskill, the rematch between her and Cecilia Brackets. For fans who do not know, they fought August of 2020. Uh, McCaskill upset Breakers to become undisputed welterweight champion of the world. A lot of people felt at the time Breakers done enough to get the victory, myself included. But McCaskill, who was a unified champion at 140 pounds, she got the win, right? Uh, Thoughts on the fact that these two ladies are going to go at it again?
This is a long-awaited rematch, which was not certain after the end of the fight. When Brackus lost the decision, afterward, her post-fight interview gave you the distinct impression that maybe she was done. Maybe she was done. But once she got back home, she had some time to decompress, think about it, relax a little bit. She decided, no, I'm not going to end my career that way. So a rematch was always in the cards at some point, but it had really dropped off the radar. So what great news to have the announcement that it was going to be added to the undercard of this great fight between Estrada and Gonzalez we've all been waiting for. A very fitting addition. And do we want to mention the other fight that's been added to the card? Another title fight in the smaller weight divisions between Hiroto Kayaguchi and Axel Aragon Vega. Another barn burner. That's a light flyweight title. That's the WBA strap for that division. Those are the three fights so far. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some dandy prospects on that undercard. Once again, going to the American Airlines Center in Dallas, where there'll be a limited audience. And that is that's the card for the boxing purists out there. All y'all, that's the one. Mark the date. There's nothing else going on. March 13th. Just clear the schedule right now. You're going to enjoy the hell out of that evening. What a great lineup.
Indeed. And thanks for mentioning Koiguchi. For those who have not seen Hiroto Koiguchi, former champion at 105 pounds, he moved up to 108, beating Hecky Butler for the title. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Bo. I believe he beat Hecky Butler for the. Yes, he did. He did beat Hecky Butler for the belt.
2 years.
Yeah, it was Hecky Butler.
Right.
2 years ago.
Yeah,
Koiguchi,
it was.
It was Hecky Butler because I interviewed him. I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, had a very exciting style, aggressive style, come forward puncher. I think fans of the smaller weight division who have not seen him fight will very, very much enjoy him fighting. I'll go to you, Daniel. On our last episode, I named Kazuta Ioka as my personal 2020 fighter of the year. Three Kings named Ioka as the fighter to look out for in 2021. There was an interview of with Ioka's trainer Ismail Salas, and Salas mentioned that Ioka talked to him personally, has expressed to him an interest in fighting one Naoya Inoue. Now Salas talked about how for that to happen, even though Ioka will have to move up 3 pounds. He's a small man. He only walks around like 125, 126. We'll have to basically have a whole body transformation for him to fight at a higher weight. But the fact that he's even entertaining fighting the likes of Inoue, talk about a super fight in Japan. There's no negotiations or anything that we've heard regarding that bout. But let's just entertain the possibility that happens later on this year. Oh my goodness.
Man, that is the fight that has been salivating in Japan for a variety of reasons. Mainly the fact that it's not a situation where Kazuto is really that much of an old guy, and fighting in a way would be like the old guard relenting to the new one. Especially when the only reason he retired the first time, we have to remember, it wasn't because of wear and tear, it wasn't because of injury, it was because he just wanted to enjoy married life for a little bit. This would be the blockbuster fight. This would be the blockbuster fight that Japan would need like to get in to really focus into it. Or they could even have it if things get better, like I said, because we mentioned it, Gayle does mention it, the pandemic, it's to say, if it gets better and if there can be crowds involved here in the States, could you imagine that type of fight in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, in Seattle, cities that have very large Japanese American populations? It would be tailor-made for that market. And it would really introduce Naoya Inoue and Kazuto Ioka to a mainstream American audience formally. We know they've been introduced before. The problem, unfortunately, is that with Inoue, it got introduced through the World Boxing Super Series. We loved it, but not a lot, unfortunately, people outside of our bubble watched it. Kind of the same thing with Kazuto when he made his debut on HBO. We loved it, but not a lot of mainstream people probably saw it. Probably even knew who Kazuto was. So that is salivating. That is probably one of the best things to come out. Especially, you may want, depending on which Japanese authority into it, you may actually want this fight for PR reasons. Because when you're starting also to get conflicting reports that the Olympics might be canceled, not postponed, canceled, you may want something like this to, keep the public at bay, distract them from the fact that they're going to lose a crap load of money. So I'm all for it.
And to hear more, read more about what Salas had to say, what Salas said in regard to Ioka and what Ioka disclosed to him, where can they find it, Bo?
Three Kings Boxing, baby.
Indeed, because yours truly actually wrote a personal piece about that. One last story, Gayle. I know you want to touch on this a little bit. Mentioned it during our pre-fight discussion. That's one Sergey Kovalev tested positive for COVID, which postponed or canceled his fight. Turned out he's tested positive for a second time. Is this basically a wrap for the Crusher?
Yep, I think so. I think that he, while he can, needs to quietly fade away while the fans' backs are somewhat turned. It's a unfortunate end to his career, which had some real highlights and some real accomplishments. But he's had legal trouble. He's had various substance abuse issues on and off over the years. He's struggled with it. He isn't the only fighter or only athlete to ever do that. But for Pete's sake, you get popped, with a dirty test, and then your B test pops just as dirty. You're just caught dead to rights. I do applaud his opponent, very young, ambitious, Uzbekistan-born fighter out of the Joel Diaz camp in India. Beck the Bully, as you all know, and Murtazaliev said, "I don't care. I don't give a shit. I don't care what he's juiced on. I'll fight him anyway." Well, good for him. That's what a young, up-and-coming, ambitious young guy should say, but that's not right. And fights off. I believe they're scurrying up a replacement opponent for Bektimir. But Kovalev probably needs to quietly fade into the sunset. He's got plenty of money. I do believe he's hauled on to most of his money, fortunately for him. He's not one of these guys who had long-term ambitions to stay in the United States. He's always wanted to return to Russia. That's where his family is. That's where his kids are. And maybe that's where he needs to be. He's there, calling it a day.
One final word here. Now, anybody who wants to jump in quickly on this one, they can. The return of the GOAT, as she likes to call herself, Claressa Shields. Last year, she made some waves talking about how she's going to train and do some training in the MMA. We'll see her in an MMA ring in 2021. But first, she's going to step back into the boxing ring. She's fighting at 154 pounds now. Has belts at 154 and 160 this upcoming fight. And I want to say, yes, in March, I believe in her hometown of Flint. I was going to fight IBF 154-pound champion Marie-Eve Dacary. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing her name wrong. Quick word from anybody regarding Shields and her next opponent. To me, Dacary, she doesn't have any power. She's a decent boxer, but I think Shields is better all around across the board, and she should win. Anyone else?
I think that Shields should win. She's looking to become undisputed in another weight class. And I don't even know if the WBA is throwing their belt in, considering the fact that Hannah Gabriel is still their champion, unless they stripped her or something. But I think I'm not trying to look past Dacary, but I'm looking at Claressa Shields needs to fight Savannah Marshall.
Yep.
That's a good fight for her. I mean, if you're not going to entertain Raquel Miller, which she seems to have just, bounced past that, then there's money in her going back to 160, maybe, regain a couple of her belts, and then fighting Savannah Marshall, the only female to have ever beaten you in your whole career. She needs to, and she's been all over Twitter cloud trying to talk trash to Savannah Marshall, saying you'll never be undisputed and you didn't win no gold medal and all of that. And Savannah has clapped back like, yeah, well, I called your name and you ran over to MMA. What are you talking about? So that's something that's brewing. That's something that needs to happen because and that's a good money fight for her if she builds this right. So that's the fight I'm actually looking at. After she finished, because let's be honest, she's killing herself trying to make 154. She really is. And that fine, luscious, round, firm, backside shaped woman should not be killing herself to get down that low. So, I like it. But after that, I think she should go get Savannah Marshall.
Oh, Bo, you got your priorities straight. I applaud.
And look, given that Marshall is with the zone, we know Hearn will put out will shell some money to make a fight happen. So, both from personal in the ring.
Yeah, but that's where there is money to make that fight. My concern with this fight is this odd pay-per-view model that's been set up for it. I'm troubled by it. That's a gamble.
Give some backdrop on it quickly.
This is a fight that's being staged as a standalone pay-per-view. It's at a low entry. It's I believe it's $29.99. I believe that's a bit of the roll of the dice. You got to be pretty darn motivated to watch women's boxing today as a pay-per-view. And I applaud Shields for betting on herself. If it falls flat, she's going to take a lot of heat, and she's not going to like it. So we'll see what happens. The undercard is not the kind of undercard that will shore up a lot of buys. So this is completely resting on her shoulders to promote it, to get people to pay up and watch her fight.
And
I think that is a very tricky proposition for her.
It's gutsy, which is the reason for a fighter that no one knows, and in Dakari. Like that's why I like they should have saved that for Savannah Marshall because there's a
Uh,
story there. There's meat
yeah.
there. There's
Well,
a
Yeah,
story that you could have built, in my
I
opinion.
still think though, pay-per-views are hard enough to sell
That's true.
with established male fighters with a promotional machine behind them. You don't have any of that here. And I'm not
yeah.
saying, and I am not by any means saying from a quality perspective, it's not worth a $30 price point. I'm just saying, you're really having trouble selling these pay-per-views other than these crazy promotional stunts, everybody. Um, I think I do applaud her guts for betting on herself. I just hope she doesn't bet and lose, get beat up over it, and have her react in a way that draws negative attention to her. I'm going to leave it at that.
One last.
That's
Go ahead, Daniel.
no. I was
Quickly.
about to say. Well, I wouldn't worry so much when it comes to pay because right now, with the way things are, you can pretty much throw a mulligan into this because you can pretty much just say, I wasn't able to promote this right because of the pandemic, under the crowds, do that. You kind of have built in mulligans right now when it comes into this. But this is kind of as her saying, I'm not going to wait for somebody else to come and scoop me up and market me. I'm going to market myself, which it's a move I completely respect.
One last bit of a subject here just hit me and it just hit my brain, and I'll let you respond to it, Daniel. Your reaction to us. Thoughts on on Warrington, Josh Warrington deciding to vacate his the IBF featherweight title. He was trying to fight Kanzu. Zoo pulled out of the fight, I believe, because there was not going to be a crowd. Warrington also had a pending mandatory against Kid Galahad, who was ticked off because the two Galahad and Warrington they fought in 2019. Warrington won the fight. I thought that Galahad won. I thought Galahad did enough to earn the verdict. Now Galahad, he's going to come out in the end probably more. He's going to come out really good in the end because he's on the verge of signing a multi-fight deal with PBC, 7-figure deal, according to him. Um, Thoughts on Warrington his decision to give up the belt, and where do you think he will go?
You also forgot the part where the IBF did not recognize Zukan as
That's
the
true. You're
WBA
right. You're
champion.
right. You're right.
That's one of the reasons also that Zukan just said fuck it. And that's just the WBA being the WBA in that area. But I'm not surprised considering the reason he said is he wants to fight Gary Russell Jr. And apparently Gary Russell Jr. has made the move or is planning to make the move to 130. So in a way, Josh Warrington is trying to make good on the promises that one Gary Russell Jr. actually made when he said, I'll follow Lomachenko anywhere, as far as division wise, to get that rematch when we all know that never's gonna happen. I'm not surprised by the situation because unfortunately Warrington got stuck in that portal when it came to the IBF on the mandatory. Kid Galahad is going to be very interesting to see taking the title that will make some moves in that division at featherweight, put them in the PBC corner. But I'm not really surprised, unfortunately, by it. Something like this was going to happen, unfortunately. At some point, the fact that there's no crowds, the fact that you can't really control the situation with the pandemic as it is, it was going to cause this. I'm just surprised that it didn't happen on a higher marquee fight, in the fights that you really needed like ticket revenues in order to possibly break even. But unfortunately, it is what it is. And considering this was going to be in the UK, and if I'm right, supposedly they're trying to go to shutdown until October. Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, indeed. In spite of all of this regarding Warrington, the real winner may be Galahad if he indeed signs that deal. He could fight for the vacant IBF belt and put him in position with PBC backing him for some big fights, even against a Russell, or he could possibly fight Kanzu. Um, so, in the end of all of this, he may be the actual winner when it's all said and done. Let's move on to talk about some preview and discuss some upcoming fights. Only one fight I want to focus on, and that is Caleb Plant making defense of the IBF super middleweight title. He's going to be fighting uh, Caleb Truax. I'll go to you on this one, Gayle. The fight's going to happen in Los Angeles on Fox Sports, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know Truax is a former champion, right? He beat a shot warrant, in my opinion, James DeGale. Lost the rematch to him. Beat Right. He lost him in the rematch. Right. I'm looking at but do I think he has any shot against Plant, who could be the second best fighter in the division outside of Canelo, right? No. In this fight, I've mentioned this before, Truax, he may be related to Bob Hope here because he has no hope, in my opinion, against Caleb Plant. If Plant doesn't win this and win this comfortably, I will be very surprised.
That makes two of us. Plant is taking this fight to tee up potentially a fight with Canelo, and he'd like to look good enough to be considered a worthy opponent, not so overwhelming that it scares anybody off, by the way. So he's got an interesting tightrope to walk. And he should be able to control this fight. He's by far the better guy. Truax is just a little long in the tooth. The only question in my mind is that you've had Plant out of the ring, like a lot of guys, since he had that stoppage. He's had two stoppages. They weren't exactly against world beaters. So he beat Mike Lee. He just pummeled poor Mike Lee. Lee bit off way more than he could chew with Plant. It was ugly on the undercard of the Pacquiao Thurman fight. And then, does anybody remember his other opponent? Feigen Butts. I'm sorry. You got to enjoy yourself when the opponent's name is Vincent Feigen Butts. Really? So, come on. So, Truax, he's a worthy opponent. He's not a journeyman yet. He has had some good wins. He's always been sort of the underdog, overcoming the odds, overcoming his background, etc. Truax is the highest rated contender in the division, according to the IBF, so that's why he's getting the fight. Yeah, it's kind of fun, the two Calebs going at each other. It's a good fight at this time of year, at this level, where everybody's kind of sorting themselves out for the big fights. And again, we're in this weird position of dealing with the pandemic and needing to buy a little time, really, to tap dance. I am not going to hate on this fight at all. It should be plenty of action for as long as it lasts. Plant is, absolutely convinced this is going to be an early stoppage. We'll see. So it'll be fun while it lasts. And it's the right kind of fight at this time. People have their minds on a lot of other things, a lot of focus on football right now and some of the other major sports. So great fight at the right level. It's on regular TV. It's not behind a paywall or a streaming service. So it'll be fun for fans to see it who want a different alternative sporting event this weekend.
I'll go to you, Daniel and Bo. Bit of a showcase fight here for Plant.
Yeah, it's a showcase in the sense of the fact that it puts his name out there. You can, if you look on paper, you can say, okay, Caleb Truax, former champion, guy who beat a former, like I said, pretty decent champion, and James DeGale. So on paper it looks good, but we kind of know where it is. We know what this is. It is a showcase fight. It's a fight to show Canelo, who wants to fight, I think, 3 or 4 times this year. I'm ready to go whenever you're ready to go. He was in the sweepstakes last time, lost to Callum. Now you can actually make he can actually make a stronger case because there's other people that are gunning for him and other people that might interest Canelo from a countryman standpoint. So get in while you can.
Yeah, I
You echo.
agree. There's
Go
really
ahead.
not much to say on that. It's a showcase fight because remember he was supposed to have fought Canelo Alvarez, and then I think the zone stepped in and was like, nah, 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 nah. If you're gonna do a big fight, something like that, then we want you to fight Colin Smith because remember he was going to fight Caleb Plant. So yeah, it's definitely a showcase fight, and I agree with Gail. It's a tightrope he has to walk. He can't look. He has to look good enough, but not so good to the point to where it's like, no, we're gonna pass up on you. And let's keep something in mind though, because you mentioned Josh Warrington. I just want to add that Josh Warrington was supposed to have fought Shakur Stevens, and I don't know that once he left Frank Warren and went to Eddie, that got scrapped. Then he's talking about Gary Russell, and it's kind of ironic how both of those guys are being called out by him when they both went up to 130. And he instead of go ahead and rematching Galahad, he wants to go ahead on drop, you know, drop his belt and do God knows what with a big fight. So I'm just saying that here lately, Josh, I think Josh Warrington might be part black because he's been loving chicken.
Okay, we got one laugh here at least. I speak for the audience. I am the voice of God.
I like that's funny. That's funny. People may be. Did he say what? Feel some kind of way, but damn it, regardless. uh, Galahad in this in his reaction in part accused Warrington of having a sense of entitlement and suggested that he's unwilling to travel abroad. He wants to keep everything close to the vest in his hometown of Leeds, England. I'm going back to you, Bo. Do you agree with his assessment of Warrington, how he feels about Warrington?
Here's the thing: when you're a champion, there is a sense of entitlement that you get because you're the champion, and when you're the challenger, you have to concede to those entitlements of the champion if you want that belt. We always talk about how Floyd Mayweather had to concede everything to Oscar De La Hoya. Um, you can look at Canelo Alvarez had to concede the highest purse to Miguel Cotto. Okay, and so for so Oscar De La Hoya, when he was trying to get Floyd to come out of retirement, he had to concede a lot of things to Manny Pacquiao. So when you're the champion and you've earned it, right? And I've beaten you. I beat you. Whether you like it or not, I did beat you. Okay. Yeah, there is a sense of entitlement that's there. I put it to you like this. You show me a fighter who, as he's coming up through the ranks, as he's making a name for himself, as he's winning, like we're seeing even with Ryan Garcia, as he's winning, making a name for himself, and all of these things. You show me a fighter that don't feel a sense of entitlement, I'm gonna show you a dude that will never be fucking champion.
Great note to end the discussion and end the show on, and we're gonna, yeah, we're gonna close shop on that very astute last words from Bo. Um, if you like what you heard on, if you listen to us on YouTube right now or later on, and you like what you heard, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're checking us out on Spotify, iTunes, etc., please subscribe to the show as well. And for those who are listening to Pound for Pound Box Report, look for Pound for Pound Box Report with the black, red, and gold logo. The previous logo with the gray and the red glove. That's we still have. There are shows there, but those are old episodes. The one with the new updated black, red, and gold logo. Those have the newest and most recent episodes. So also, make sure to write a review on iTunes, or I'd love to hear your commentary on what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, what we can do to improve the show. 5-star reviews will get read on a live show and on a future episode. I'm going to go around the panel here. Um, First of all, I also want to give a shout out to Gus. Want to also give a special shout out to a previous regular of the show, Jacob. I'm not going to go into great detail, but he had to leave us because of some situations on his personal end, and like a lot of folks, he was impacted in terms of the job tip because of COVID-19, and a lot of people had to lose employment and seek other alternatives employment. Unfortunately, I hope that happened to him. But because of his new job and his new schedule, he will not be able to be with us or regular on the show for the foreseeable future. He still listens to us, so I wanted to give a special shout out to him, and I also wanted to give a shout out to Lisa Bells. You've heard her on previous episodes, you've seen her on previous episodes, particularly on YouTube. She wasn't able to make it with this evening, but she did tell me probably she is listening to us live. Um, I want to go around the panel here. Um, Begin the show with ladies first is going to end the show with ladies first as well. Gail for Communities Digital News. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to hear and read your input on boxing, for those of us who want to talk to you regarding media and media training and whatnot. Um, let the folks know where they can find, or for those who want to check you out on TMZ, because you kind of a semi-regular on TMZ now. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Oh yeah, I made an appearance last week. Getting to talk about Joe Exotic, but I'll leave it at that. You never know what you're going to find. Oh my lord! You can find my regular boxing column at Communities Digital News, and that's COMMDIGI News, comdiginews.com.
Indeed, indeed. And next time you on TMZ, just make sure to give a little quick shout out to Pound for Pound Box Report and Three Kings Boxing. Just a little extra plug.
If I
Wouldn't
could
hurt.
get away with it, well, Harvey watches me like a hawk. What are you talking about?
I'll go to you, Daniel, for those who want to talk boxing, for those who want to talk the NBA, particularly as it pertains to the Miami Heat. For those who want to check you out, just clap back at folks for nonsense on Twitter. Let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Yes, folks, you can find me on Twitter, RKRAWKUZ99, and definitely, like I said, with me. I think it's either going to be this Thursday or this Sunday. We're going to have the second show of the year. Me, Joe, and Francis coming up for definitely talking about this year and getting things back up. And the only question that I may have for Gail regarding Joe Exotic is how much money did he waste on that limo? Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh,
How much
wow.
money?
No kidding. And he hired a makeup artist and hairstylist. What the hell were they going to do with his hair? What was the point of that? Yeah, he burned a few dollars.
Yeah. And Gail, check the private check. I think Bo, I'm leaving a message for you there. I'll go to you last, but certainly not least, Bo. Truth and facts sports talk. Get it right, Mike. Also, head of media relations for Three Kings Boxing. One of the HNICs, him and 2K, the head of Three Kings Boxing, the man behind all of the things, the two dudes who personally invited me to be part of the Three Kings Boxing crew. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk anything else, let the folks know where they can find you, and give a little plug for the your apps, because you are in the app development game.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for that. Yeah, I'm doing the apps, man. We got Zombie Killer. We got a couple apps that's going to be coming out. But as always, go to Three Kings Boxing for the latest great sports going on in sport of boxing. Special shout out to Gus and to Jacob. Just know that you guys in thoughts and in our prayers. especially you, Jacob, my man. Can't wait to get you back on, and just let's love being here. Like Mike said earlier, man, it's good when you can have people that are adults, because Lord knows sometimes I can be a kid. So it's good when you have people who are adults and we can talk and we can discuss. And that's one of the great things about this panel. And I also just want to say to Gayle that I understand life is tough, that you're going through something with COVID. There's no fly zone. So your boyfriend, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., has been able to come home. But don't worry, once he get his shot, he'll be there to see you.
I thank you so much.
For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, you know what it is with me on Twitter, Brother JR at Brother JR76. As I said at the beginning of the show, if you want to check out all info regarding Pound for Pound Box Report, the blog page is the place to go to, p4pboxreport.wordpress.com. Top right of the page, you can find links to where to find us on social media, YouTube, Twitter, where you can find the show on all podcast platforms, where you can donate, and also the link to my online fitness coaching page. Next episode, I don't know if I'll do a show next week because, like I said, boxing for the first month and a half really has been really, really dry. I may take a week off and come back in 2 weeks with a recap of Truax and Plant, as well as previewing fights on the 13th. Is going to be starting on the 13th of February. Boxing is really going to pick back up again in Vegas on the 13th. Joe Smith fighting Vlasov for a vacant world title at 175 pounds, a WBO version. We mentioned Jackson Martinez when we talked about Rolly Romero. Well, he's going to fight Richard Comey on the undercard of that bout on the 13th. The aforementioned Josh Taylor, who we just talked about, he's going to be fighting Mauricio Lara in a non-title bout on the Zone. More fights on the 13th. Jojo Diaz making the first defense of his IBF junior lightweight title. He's going to be fighting a guy by the name of Rakimov. On the undercard of that, Patrick Teixeira, he's going to defend his WBO 154-pound title. Against Brian Castano. It's going to be a mandatory defense for him. Adrian Broner's supposed to I believe is going to return back to the ring on the 13th as well. So a lot of fights to preview on that date on February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. Look at here, boxing is picking up and getting back in full force on Black History Month. So there you go. Again, I want to thank everybody who checked us out on YouTube Live. I want to thank, again, another shout out to Gus, to Jacob, to Lisa. I know they're checking the show out live. Then I'll be not able to make it with us this evening. For Gayle from Communities Digital News, Daniel from the Inscriber, both from Truth and Facts Sports Talk and Three Kings Boxing. I am your host, Michael. This has been episode 312 of the Pound for Pound Box Report. They having a discussion here at the live chat. I didn't mention that fight. Emmanuel Shaw.
Don't do it, Mike. Don't do it
on purpose. 39.95. Don King, really?
Stop him.
Yeah, let me get off my soapbox here. Episode 312 of Pound for Pound Box. Like I said, I have standards here. I have standards. I'm gonna talk. I may know a lot, but I'm not going to talk about everything. And that fight just nope. Episode 312 of Pound for Pound Box Report. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.
Even we have standards.
Even
we have standards. That's
right.
The key point, everybody. We have standards.
Are we still live?